Hello, and welcome to Free America. I'm your host, Nick Yaya, and this is the Free America podcast. We're here with the premiere edition, first episode. Very exciting time. So I'd like to welcome you all. Hopefully, you will find this podcast interesting, informative, and hopefully, you'll be able to take something away from this that will help make your life a little bit better. So I'd like to start off by giving you a little background behind why I started this podcast. I just took a look around me recently in these days, and I see a lot of misinformation, a lot of lies, a lot of untruths that you see out there in the media, from elected officials and unelected officials. People telling you things that don't make sense. People they contradict each other. Take for example this whole thing with COVID. In the beginning, Fauci was telling us you don't need to wear masks, it's okay. And then a couple months later, he backtracked and said, well, you do need to wear masks. Same thing with the World Health Organization or the CDC. It's all very confusing. And so my hope is that through this podcast, I can help try to make some sense out of this, because we all know that, fear is what is really at the heart of what's going on these days, whether we're talking about the coronavirus, or if we're talking about the BLM protests and what's going on in the streets of Portland and Seattle and cities across the country. Fear is a big issue, and fear comes from lack of understanding. And if you can better understand what's at the root of a problem or what's going on, then you can, better solve it. And with that, and to do that, you need information. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to provide you with information that you can use to overcome that fear. So on that note, real quick, I'd like to give you just a quick example of what I'm talking about here. So you've got a story from CNN talking about the riots, or not the riots, but the protests in Portland, the peaceful protests. And here they show, feds using tear gas against protesters. We can play that video real quick here. Okay. Now, see, that guy is giving you information. He's telling you, the kind of some of the facts on the ground. This is something I wanted to bring to your attention in just a minute. But what CNN will do, it'll put forward this narrative that there's peaceful protests, there's nobody rioting, there's nobody damaging federal property or setting things on fire or anything like that. These unmarked police officers are just rolling in there and scooping up innocent protesters. It sounds like something out of a fascist nightmare, something out of 1984. When in fact there's something quite different actually going on, which is if I figure out how to not here we go, stop sharing the screen. So anyway, there's something quite different going on, and what it is basically these protesters, they come out at about midnight, between midnight and 4 in the morning, according to the acting head of the DHS, and they start fires. They attack officers. They throw projectiles. They throw incendiary devices, explosives. And what the officers do is identify these individuals. All right. And then later on in the night, when things have calmed down a bit, they go out and they arrest them. As simple as that. But all you see on the news is a little clip of some guys getting out of a minivan in fatigues with no name badges and scooping these guys up, scooping up these agitators, these anarchists. Okay. So you have to understand what's really going on, and you need to get as much information as you can about a subject before you jump to conclusions, because it's easy to do. And that's the way they like feeding you that information, to get you riled up, to attack your emotions. But you need to make decisions based on facts and evidence. And that's what we like to provide you with here on this show. So hopefully I got that across to you. I know it's a little clunky. It's my first shot at doing this, so give me a little slack. But anyway, that being said, I've invited a good friend of mine, very special guest, onto the show today, and we met. Well, I believe we met on set, and then we've worked several times together as actors. He's an actor, entertainer, really cool guy. I really enjoy this man's company, and I believe one day this guy will be a congressman or somebody in politics, because he's super sharp. He knows the issues, and he's got answers. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our guest tonight, Siaka Massaquoi.
Hey, what's going on, Nick?
What's up, Siaka? How you doing, man? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. Thank you for joining us.
First of all, let me just correct you. I don't know if I have if I have answers. So,
well, hey,
that's a lot of pressure on someone coming just to ask, answer a few questions. But so
yeah,
answers. Oh shit! I was ready just to pose questions. No. Where we can be here and chat. Thank you for having me on, man. I'm glad to be on for your first show. It got a little crazy. Can I tell them about the craziness real quick?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, I was at Joe Collins' event, who is currently running. He's a former Marine, and he's currently running for Maxine Waters, running against her.
That's right. How'd that go?
That was amazing. We met Joe. They're out there doing a food and grocery drive, so they're handing out food and groceries to the constituents in the neighborhood, and just they're basically holding a rally, trying to hear what the issues are going on there. I was fortunate enough to meet one of the youth. I guess the youth organizer who works with the young kids in that group, and that's something that's special to me. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna work together, hopefully come up with some programs or something to help out with the young kids in those areas, because like we all know the kids are our future, but like we got to make sure we're kind of building a better future, not a future of just people who get upset. And you touched on what's going on out there, and not knowing the whole facts before they kind of get after it, But yeah, it was such a beautiful event. Everyone was so open and like inviting. Next, me and my buddy were grabbing food and we're putting it in the back of people's cars and we're taking pictures. And so it was cool. Great guy. Joe was a great guy. Just awesome to hang out and just seeing this community come together and trying to get out the issues that are really bothering them, not the I guess I would say the highlight issues that they want to throw on major news networks, but like something as simple as one of the guys who lives around the corner, Hispanic man, was basically brought to tears because he's like, when we call 911, because of the bureaucracy, it goes to 3 different departments just to get one person to tell you, yeah, exact thing about that.
Wow.
So it's not, as everyone's running around and saying like defund this, it's like the amount of red tape and corruption in our politics, that is the problem.
Yeah.
Politics.
Yeah.
It's the corruption. And then they use the lies. The reason why they use the lies, have to use the lie, because at the end of the day, we all forget, as they're still trying to shift it into a different type of system, it says we the people. And so at the end of the day, it's why they have to have us the people turned up to what they want. People won't move the needle.
Yeah, no, you make a really good point there. The defund the police movement. I think it has good intentions. I understand where these people are coming from. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of anger directed at law enforcement. But I think over the past gosh, I'll say 10, 20 years. I mean, ever since really Rodney King happened out here in the LA riots in 92, I know LAPD specifically has been making an effort to do community outreach, to be less aggressive and more de-escalationary when it comes to dealing with persons. I've actually seen it in action myself. Not that wasn't me that they had to de-escalate around.
Yeah, no, right.
But a neighbor, it was a neighbor of mine who had just become really irate, and he was really drunk, and they came out, and they could have lit him up with bean bags or whatever, but they chose not. They didn't tase him. They talked him down, and so. But are there incidents that go on?
Of course.
Sure. But I think these days they're fewer and far between. However, with social media and everything being recorded, it seems like it's happening that much more often.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because even in this whole time all this stuff's going on, and like, man, I have friends who are police officers, I have friends who are gangsters, I have friends who are drug addicts, I have friends who are professional, business professionals. I have friends all over the place, right? And when you hear people saying, well, not all cops are bad, somebody said something to me before. They're like, there are 346 million people in this country. If we wanted to record a thing that is going on and then finding more footage of that thing out of all the people we have here, again, this is not saying that, things aren't happening in these places, and, that police aren't brutalizing some members of society. But if it's we can find like one-legged dogs and say that's a pandemic or epidemic going on in this country if we want to, because we have a lot of people here though too.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, it's like, you can't sit there and do the same level of defunding the police that Minneapolis is want to do, which is, to me, insane, as we see how crazy that is. You can't ask for that same thing as some small town in the middle of nowhere, because it's not the same way they tried to do that one size fits all for the corona response. New York people live on top of each other. It's a goddamn, excuse my language, but it's like a rat trap. So Of course it's going to be disgusting in there. Of course it's going to be like that. But if you're in Idaho, Wyoming, hell, some parts of Los Angeles here, how can you have that same type of response to something when it's not even the same? The something isn't moving.
Same environment. Yeah,
exactly. And a lot of times these people talk about I believe in science. I believe in science. I'm like, when do you don't believe in science? When it's expedient to them, Well,
that's the thing, is only when the science fits the narrative is it allowed to make it to the mainstream. We've got scientists getting censored left and right because
we had those two doctors who were trying to describe how, it's not a level of severity where we need to shut everything down and hide behind, in our house. These two doctors, they posted it on YouTube, and then it's banned.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen some of the hateful garbage, and we've talked about it that they allow on there. But when you have doctors being like, hey, here's another part of the story, it's not even is it right or wrong? It's like, give me all the information, then it's up to me, the promise of this country. It's up to me to then make my own decision. Not up to you to tell me I got to wear a mask all the time or I don't. But that's what you think when you hear all the numbers are rising. Then you find places like Florida, they first said it was first said 60 something or 80% lift, increase. And then they have to adjust their numbers because they're lying. It was 9.8% after that. It's like, we know what stories are coming out where they lie numbers. Somebody died from a motorcycle accident, and then that's Corona. Somebody dies from a heart attack. Whoops, that's Corona.
Right.
Numbers have been inflated they say it themselves, so that they get the money from the federal government.
They have been. Yeah. I was trying to pull up something on screen here showing these test results out of Florida. I was looking at this yesterday, and there are some labs in here where testing was 100% positive. Here we go. 100%. But then there's another lab up here just above it where it's 9%. And they say that's actually the closer to the correct number of positive cases is 9% of people who are testing positive. The other 91% of people are testing negative. But that again doesn't fit the narrative on the fearmonger media. of the
which
mainstream media.
sucks because, like, as they talk about whether people should wear masks or not go back to school, this, that, and the other, like, how do you prepare your citizens is, I feel like, the job of the news, right? But if you're not talking about, like, we need to be outside in the sun, you need to get your zinc, you need to get your vitamin D, you need to get your vitamin C up there, fresh lemon, like these things that we can do on our own, these things that don't need to be exercised, that we don't need to rely on some vaccination to come out of nowhere within a year with no animal trials and barely any human trials, as the Gates try to fucking do it on Africans that don't really have anything to do with this European disease or disease from China right now.
Right.
So it's like, those are things that are like human responses that I don't see on a consistent basis. And it sucks because now it's become not like, well, okay, look, if we go inside, wear a mask. It's like there's a mask or don't wear a mask can. And it's like, that's not even reasonable on both of those sides. It's like, yeah, I cannot wear a mask when I'm walking around like outside on the earth, but like maybe if I wear a mask when I'm sitting in a room with 4 other people, that's to me sensible. But it's not one or the other. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And like, I think one of the things that's missing, because everything's so turned up, it's like people really have to stop and think. At the end of the day, we, as the average people who have never met anyone that, for the most part, that works on CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News, we don't interact in that way, right? We interact with each other: grocery store, gas station, bus stop, like, you name it. We go to a sporting event. We're around each other more often, and to believe that one whole side either has to do what you think only,
that's not American.
You know what I mean? And so, like, we have to stop to pull back. And I said this, I went to Huntington Beach last week, and it was a pro-Trump rally and a Black Lives Matter rally. We're there. And I started calling out a lot of these Black Lives Matters protesters because, by their own admission, the heads of Black Lives Matter say they're Marxists. Marxists, first of all, Karl Marx hated Black people. So people need to know who you're sitting there rallying behind when you wear these T-shirts and hats. And they want to say people who wear "Make America Great Again's" hats, like it's like wearing, Nazi this or a hood, Klan hood. They say, the leaders of this movement say themselves, we are trained Marxists. I'm not making it up. People on the right are making up. They say it themselves. And if people look at what trained Marxists are and what their tactics are, number one, they're going to take out old people and parents. Boom, done.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, burn down history so they can tell you where the history is going to go.
Mm-hmm. That's what just tearing down the statues. That's what that's all about.
That's all it's about. So they sit there and then they also use a phrase like Black Lives Matter, part of the Marxist playbook. You pick a phrase that is, in their mind, controversial proof, so that if someone says I'm against the phrasing or the organization, the phrase of it then is what they're defending, right? Oh, you're against Black lives? No, I'm against the organization. Like, nah, but it lives, and it's kind of like saying this and that. No, it's not. When your main topic is you want to break up the family home, the patriarchy, the biggest problem in the Black community is because we don't have our men there. They're either locked up or killing each other at 80% clip. And you want to tell me Black Lives Matter's number one movement is to make sure men, the patriarchy isn't there, the family structure is broken up.
That's the core. That's the core of the issue. Yeah, that's what's caused all this ever since the '60s, when Democrat policies started coming in, supporting the the one-parent family, giving incentives to mothers to not have the father around. So yeah.
So, I mean, we sit there and like it's really interesting because I asked them on that Saturday, and I'm like, I see all your energy and I love it. And I think like the energy is what's needed because, again, it's we the people, right? And so I sit there and watch them. I ask them, I go, I see all this energy and I see everyone burning stuff down now. But how come just in the last, at the time, 3 weeks alone, we're hearing numbers of kids being killed in Chicago, people being shot like it's a war zone. Then you got the mayor Lightfoot, like anyone that questions her or pushes her back to be like, we need help, calling them clowns. Like that's her response. People are dying in the streets, and your response is, you're a clown. Don't be a clown, to the head of the police union. A good friend of mine works for Chicago PD. He's like, we're on our own out here.
Wow.
Kids are dying, and they're playing a political game And then on their apparatus on television, they're telling people, "Oh, we're doing the right thing." People are dying. That's it. Kids are dying. Average person dying in these shootouts in this war zone is 22 and younger, predominantly black males. What are you telling me?
Right. Yeah. Now, are they more at risk at dying at the hands of police or at
No,
the hands? Yeah.
they're
No.
more at risk of dying statistically at the hands of people that look like us. We're more likely to die from that.
Yeah.
But you can't talk about that. You can't bring it out.
So, but to kind of bring it back around, this folds into the Marxist playbook, which is destabilize the state.
Mm-hmm.
The state.
Yeah. I mean, the brown shirts did it. Mao, Communist China did it. They did it in the Soviet Union. They did it in Cuba with Castro. I mean, Che, after he worked with Castro, went on down to Colombia, took that same skill over there. And we see what a lot of those countries been. A lot of the people who are coming in here, like the wave of illegal aliens, they're coming from that shit. They're coming from that. And then we want to make that into, like, how does that make any sense?
No, it doesn't. But there's a coordinated effort to, I believe, and many people believe, to bring this country down. And they've been trying to do it from the outside for so many years, but now they're doing it from the inside.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I was reading this book, "Winning the Race" by John McWhorter, and within it, it goes the crisis beyond. Let's see if I can pull it up. The crisis beyond the black community, right? And the race. Sorry, this is cool. We can do this at the same time like this.
Yeah.
This is. So in reading the book, there was a point in there where they talk about two individuals that basically their job was they wanted to get as many people on unemployment as possible, on basically the U.S. financial dime as possible, so that they could bring it, they could collapse it, right? And so in doing so, they started with young black, individuals, because they were coming out of slavery, coming out of this whole situation. So they do that so that literally just to break down the economic structure of, and I'll read this to you guys real quick. If I can get it going here. So
take your time.
Do this too, because we're trying to figure out how to.
Well, hey, go ahead and keep searching. I'll just jump in here that. That's another thing you see right now is this a lot of people throwing around the term universal basic income, UBI, and
Obama was doing a speech about 2 years ago over in South Africa, talking about how that it should work. So U.S. president was talking about communist policies, just so we
that's exactly what it is. That is exactly what UBI is. It's a communist policy. And, in chatting with some of my friends online and through Facebook, some people who lean definitely more to the left, they're like, wow, this is great. I don't have to work. And I say to them, look, man, do you really want to be dependent upon someone else for your welfare? For, what happens when they pull that plug, when they pull the check, man, because they want you to do something that you don't want to do,
one thing that I say, and let me just read this part since we're close to that. It was Francis Fox Piven and Richard Cloward.
Oh, Cloward and Piven, yeah.
They were social work professors, social work again. Sciences, the things that aren't based in reality, that they want to somehow can assume because of your skin color, every movement you make is based on some bullshit that they can put in some book. Literally, that's what they do. They do that on both sides. And it's crazy. So these people, they go, that was their job, to bring down the Americans' financial system by dragging as many people, especially poor black ones, into the welfare role as possible. Now, if we look around, that's what was so influential in the black community. Also, you look at some statements that are in the black community. Some I think we've talked about before, like every day as a black person, right? You've heard that. Every day as a black person, cops or racism. Now, what they did was, I felt like that was the beta test for the rest of the country. Now, a gay man can say every day as a gay man. A woman can say every day as a woman. A transgender every day as a transgender, and put some kind of gonna die or life doesn't work. But that started from, at least when I was growing up, that was I was hearing over the black community.
Yeah.
To turn around and start hearing this from like little white boys who may be gay, but there are still white guys saying, well, every day as a gay man, my life is in danger. And again, this is not saying shit doesn't happen, but it's saying every day when you start to flip the switch and see the world only through a certain lens, microaggressions and shit like that they want to tell you exist, when hey, maybe you're having a bad day, maybe your girlfriend left you, maybe you also lost your job, maybe your mom died and that's why you threw a shoulder in that random person that you weren't even thinking about. But no, it's either white, what is it, white privilege, or it's because this, it's because that. It's just the person isn't a person. They're a box of things.
Right.
It takes away the responsibility from the individual too.
That's right.
It's not your fault. And we saw them do this when we were growing up, giving all these kids, everyone ribbons just from showing up.
Participation trophies.
So it makes sense to them to say, like when you said your friend is like, oh man, that'd be cool, I don't have to work again. But they've gotten an idea that like this thing will take care of you. At the same time, and this is the fucking crazy. Can I curse? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, this is it's cool.
We're online. I forgot. There's no censors yet. So but it's like they get it all twisted in their heads, right? And they say like they'll say stuff like, oh yeah, no, they'll be like, all right, the whole time you can't understand because you're a white man, right? To be like, you have no idea because you're a white man. And then he'll turn to me and be like, yo, as a black man, I get it. You get it, right? That doesn't matter where I'm from. Doesn't matter if my mom's first generation. Automatically, as a black man, I'm this. But if I at all, and I've seen this in my own life, if I at all have a different mentality from the liberal mentality, then they say things and you see it from interviews. But you're black. How can you? Mm-hmm. So think it like people don't really think about that. Like whether it's Trevor Noah on the Daily Show, the late night talk shows on MSNBC, when they're interviewing a black conservative, someone that's just not following that toe from the left, but you're black. How can't you? Mm-hmm. How can you think this way? Like the expectations of, or the setup for lower expectations and the acceptance of that, like as people, as men. Black men, black women, we should be grossed out and disgusted that the idea for ourselves, even from ourselves, is that this means we think the same.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
But isn't that the opposite of what they say? Hey, inclusive. Everyone has their own ideas, but yet you have to think a certain way.
Groupthink.
They do this like roundabout way. Because they allow sometimes some of the most disgusting, shitty people around. When you have their pedophiles that they have running around in their communities, you got your Ed Buck, who's a huge Democratic donor for years, shooting up homeless black guys with heroin over there, but nothing. Here in West Hollywood, nothing. Mm-hmm. When Epstein's homie Maxine, before they got rid of that judge on the 9th Ward in New York, and he was sitting on Epstein's case. Maxine, forget her last name, she was sitting over there at the In-N-Out, right over there in Van Nuys, after Epstein was choked to death.
Ghislaine Maxwell, yeah,
Maxwell just sitting there reading a book, a spy book at the In-N-Out, and it's like, we see what you guys are doing, man. It's disgusting people are allowed to get away with being gross and disgusting. And then when people really want to help out, want to try something for community or for people, try to change the mind, then it's like, oh, they got to either cancel them or they got to say some kind of name about them, makes them the most evil. While it's at the same time, all these places that are burning down, all these places that are calling for defunding the police, who's going to hurt more? It's going to be the poor black and brown people that they keep fucking saying that they're supporting. But then they're sitting there talking about defund the police. I don't want to hear anybody give me any more of that. Like, oh, well, it doesn't mean I know that. No, you say defund, that's what it means. Words matter. And they always want to take the words and change it around so it fits their shit, only for their shit. But they can turn around and call someone racist. Mm-hmm. What you're doing, what you're asking to do is going to kill, as it is right now, kill more black and brown people. But yet you say Black Lives Matter and you say you're trying to help people in that situation. That move is idiotic, plain and simple. And these people sit there and want to post some kind of like, oh, I feel good. I posted something because I gave food to a homeless black dude or some dumb shit like that. You're voting for the same policies you're sitting there crying about when you see these people on the streets. And you wouldn't want a life like that. You wouldn't want your family living on welfare. Why is that okay for that community to live on welfare? Ask yourself those damn questions. Why can't they have work opportunity just like you and your son and your daughter? But yet welfare is okay. Mm-hmm. Why Why can't construction happen in those neighborhoods? Work. AOC and Talib are trying to shut down the opportunity zones right now. Tell me the last time the government was sitting there putting money into a black community for black people to do it, try to do it themselves. Right now, there's outside people coming in, and that's some concern. But you're not going to shut down the whole program and just saying it's racist. What do you have? What's your other alternative? Let the people that you already told us hates me. You already told us the government's white supremacist. Why would I want to give that white supremacist government more power?
Right.
Well, that doesn't make sense.
Tell me this now. So when you're talking about, no, it's cool. I love it. No, it's great, man. Get mad, get pissed, man. It's something to be pissed off about for sure. So when they're talking about redirecting funds from the police back into these communities, do you think they're going to be using that same welfare method of, or are they going to be reinvesting, literally like building and?
No. But here's the thing. In Illinois alone, we spend over $2,100 a kid, right? And they talk about the education over there, especially public schools, garbage, and we spend more money into that. Part of the reason, one of the hugest reasons why it's garbage, is because they hire more administrators. They don't hire more teachers. Now they just removed the police out of the schools.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Violence and shooting in the schools. Again, who is going to get hurt? Those same kids that have always been hurt. Right. And people are sitting there right now burning the stuff down to support something that's going to kill more black and brown people. So what they're going to do, why would I believe people who already don't address the issues that need to be addressed with the money that they have? Why would I believe if you cut money from here and get more money over here, it's going to work? There's nothing that shows me it has worked.
That's a good point.
And it's the same people running it. So why would I believe the same people running the same shit down into the ground, if you give them more money and cut it from the only other organization for good, bad, or indifferent, is set up there so that it can respond to crimes that happen to people who need help? You cut that leg of that. And then we can just talk about California releasing all the prisoners by the end of August. They haven't supposed to release 18,000 more prisoners. Where you cut down to $150 million from the police budget. What are we doing?
It seems like it's a coordinated effort. It really does. I mean, when you step back and look at all of these elements put together, whether it's defunding the police, releasing the prisoners, it just seems to me that like it's a recipe for disaster. And you can't call me a conspiracy theorist because these are facts. And now, is there a conspiracy behind it? Are these people conspiring to make that happen? That has yet to be proven. Okay. But these are facts.
I'm telling you, man, you look around, and again, looking at a place from a human standpoint, does that make sense? My mom lives in the South Shore of Chicago. I tell her that they 3 weeks ago cut the gun and gang unit, and she was just like, why would they do that? And that's something I've been saying for a long time. I'm like, they don't care about you. I'm sorry. I grew up like with all that ideology, all that leftist ideology. And the truth is, I've watched them consistently not care about people, that they'll put them in this situation, that you will sit there and have people marching on the streets to put them in this situation. Like, think about this, people. They're having thousands of people marching in the streets, right? And let's say the George Floyd protest started about almost 60 days ago to a certain extent, right? About 60 days ago.
Yeah, they're about
50 days they've been in the streets. This is the last 3.5 weeks alone in Chicago, Philly, Portland, Seattle, and a little bit here, but not as bad. New York. People have just been shot like it's a video game, like it's Grand Theft Auto.
Well, they say more black men were killed just during that initial period of those protests than they were all last year from police shootings.
Of course,
of unarmed black men.
Of course there was.
Yeah.
Of course there was, but it's not the show, right? It's not cool to sit there. You sit there and they played it on purpose over and over for people to be so disgusted by it over and over. But you know what they didn't play? Over in Chaz, when that Chaz security guards, when they sat there and shot up that car with those two 14-year-old unarmed black kids who were going for a joyride, when they shot them for 5 minutes, reloaded, shot again, walked up to the door, hearing some guy coughing, laughing, saying, "You're still alive." Pop, pop, pop. They didn't show that over and over, did they?
Yeah, the narrative.
No, nothing at all. So again, it's like life does happen. So when they're showing you, I've learned a long time ago, when they keep showing you something over and over, they keep screaming about something over and over, there's usually a reason behind it that isn't good.
Right. Well, what was it? One of Hitler's tactics was repeat a lie long enough and make
Yeah.
it big enough that people eventually believe you.
Exactly. And that's one thing I found in this last 3.5 years. I'm like looking around and I'm like, man, they are everything they scream about. They're the sexist. They're the racist. They're the bigots. Look how they talk to people. You can't understand because you're white. Like, what? What does that mean?
Oh yeah, I've had
Go ahead. Yeah.
I've had people on some of my friends online, accuse me of being racist just because of the color of my skin.
Of course.
And I said, no, that's a complete contradiction in terms. I mean, you're calling me racist, but you're the one being the bigot.
Yeah.
You're the one stereotyping me based on the color of my skin. That is racist.
Plain and simple. But then they'll use the excuse, well, either racism is a power thing, so people of color can't be racist.
The guy said I can't be racist because I'm black.
So I ask you, I'll ask anyone this: the whole idea of racism, they say power. Okay, you're not racist. You're just a fucking dickhead because what's happening and what you're doing, you're a bigot. You're choosing to judge everybody based on those one things. The thing that Martin Luther King said, hopefully one day America can fulfill its promise that his children and white children can live together, be judged by their content of character, not their
not the color of their skin.
The promise of this country. The promise of this country is that. But who keeps pushing? Well, black men are this, white men are this, black women are this. Like who? I never hear that shit on the right.
It's the progressive left.
So you're telling me a gay cis? No, I'm not a nothing cis nothing. I'm a man. My name's Siaka. I'm black. I have all this other stuff, but guess what? I have other stuff that can relate to you, maybe better to somebody else that looks just like me. So it's like it's the ideas, it's the mindset that connects. That's the promise of this country that's different than any other country that's ever existed. Because if you're French, you're from France. If you're Spain, Spanish, you're from Spain. Italian, Italy. That's it. Whereas if you're American, you can be Italian American, you can be Spanish American, you can be Asian American, but you're American first and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Because that American first, the idea that I believe in, and I know most of the people that I'm close with believe in, is that as long as that's where we're starting from,
right?
Because it's like we know then we're in the best interest of that. So if that's where we're starting from, yeah, we can shift and we can have a little difference. Oh, I think it should be 6 o'clock, not 7 o'clock. And now we work through that, whatever it is. But if we're coming from a place where it's like, the hell with this space, good luck.
Well, that's my concern, is that the dialogue is diminishing in this country, and it's become so polarized that it's almost to the point at which groups on either end of the spectrum can no longer communicate. And my concern is that this is going to devolve further. And, well,
that's the plan, divide and conquer is all.
Sure.
Is it Sang Sung? No, is that the guy from Mortal Kombat? It's, who's that?
Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu. I was thinking Sang Sung, but that's guy from Mortal Kombat. No, but Art of War, divide and conquer. That's basic stuff. And what the people do not understand is that they're screaming about people we know. That's the difference. They're telling us about people we know. I mean, I know how many stories about people losing family members because they're on different sides of the spectrum of politically. I'm like, they're telling you those people on the other side of the fence are these evil people, but yet you're the one that knows them. You need to think about that for real, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, MSNBC, CNN, whatever it is. At the end of the day, most of the stories you hear about brothers not talking to each other and this not talking to each other, it's like you're believing people you don't know about people you do know.
Wow. That's brilliant.
That's messed up, man.
Yeah. Well,
listen to it. If you're falling for it, please wake yourself up. Because the other thing that they're pointing out, most of these people, they're thinking that's a small minority. They're in a small bubble world. Chicago, New York, LA. We see it out here. But you go to certain other areas, they ain't buying that shit.
Yeah.
You don't talk to them like they're like, nah, you're not going to come here and just try to tell me who I am based off your social science class. You can go fuck yourself. And they'll tell you that in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's because they communicate at a community level. In these big cities, what we've come to to depend upon is getting our information from the news, getting our information from these social media sites, which are anything but social. It's probably one of the most antisocial things that you can do.
Like, I'm sorry, let me cut you off, but I think like this. One of the biggest things I found out when I went to Huntington Beach and talking to people, we don't know our history in this country. Part of the history is like Alexander, Voltaire, right? He says, I may not agree with what you have to say, but I will fight to my death for you to say it. That has been a core tenet of America. But all of a sudden now with safe spaces and hate speech that is promoted, who promoted that stuff? It wasn't people on the right. Who made it harder for us to talk to each other? And then they start listing things that are considered hate speech, which fall under, I don't know you, so I'm going to ask you who you are. How dare you ask about me? Like think about like how they put it into this frame where they took language away from people. They took the use of language and put it in a place where it's a landmine for someone to step on. You don't know that person. That's come from? Like what?
That's straight out of 1984. It really is.
That's the communist Marxist playbook. Take words away from the people. That's why number one in this country, only country in the world that has it as their, not only just have it on their Bill of Rights, but the number one thing, freedom of speech.
Right. There's no such thing as hate speech. It doesn't say, in the First Amendment, anything about hate speech. There's no such thing as hate speech. There's free speech, period.
It's free speech, and it's the reason why. And I always say this to friends now. It's like part of it is because there's two parts, right? Number one, they've been spoiled to say there's people are supposed to think like you, and if you don't, then how dare they? They're just bad people. But at the same time, number two, they compartmentalize a lot of these arguments, so we never really get down to the nitty gritty, right? To see the cop beat up the one person and say the problem with why black people can't get in a better situation is because of systematic racism and police brutality. And then that's it. And then when they raise their hand, you're like, well, there's no dads around there. Like, no, we got to get rid of police brutality first. I'm like, yeah, but can you teach them about like 401ks and retirement and how to work a credit? No. We got to get rid of police brutality and systemic racism first. So then I asked you, by separating in that, they separate that so we are, as a regular people, not just black, but as regular people, are emotional about the topic. While if you talk to somebody about credit, if you talk to somebody about finance, the biggest freedom in this world that we live in, and the world that has existed for a long time in human history, is financial. But
that's where the power is. That's who has all the power in this world.
How many times do you hear Black Lives Matter, of anyone on the left being like, we need to put more money in your pocket? Please pull up the video, send it to me. Like anyone who's watching this, if you've seen them do that, please put it in, send it to Nick. He'll send it. I want to know anytime people on the left, especially in the last 3 years, or BLM are talking about more money in people's pockets, because that's where your freedom is. Fuck you money. Everyone knows fuck you money, right?
Right. Yeah.
Let's see. Have they been trying to push that on for the individual, or they've been trying to get people to fall under one umbrella more often than not?
More often, it's moved towards communism, tax the rich, give to the poor, and so people become dependent upon a system, and then they vilify people who are a part of building this country. Who through their own efforts and blood and sweat build these businesses that employ people, that put money in people's pockets because of their efforts and because of the efforts of those people.
Or they try to belittle it.
Right.
And so now you're sitting there, and again, part of it is they don't tell us our history. They don't tell us our history. I had this conversation. I was talking to, again, it was so amazing to go to this thing, because at the end of the day too, surprisingly, and I think that's one thing that I would want to take to pull back on what you said about conversation. Like, yeah, it was loud, but like, truth be told, people were there to people were going back and forth trying to understand each other. It was really beautiful. Well,
I'm glad to hear that, because there needs to be more of that.
I think there's more of that than we think, because again, there's enough people in this country that when something happens, because there's enough people here, then it's like, you see, told you. And it's like, no, we went there. It never felt like any moment that it was going to become something negative and violent.
Maybe that there is the disconnect in what we see in cities like Portland and Seattle. You see the news, it depends on which network it is, whether it's CNN or Fox or MSNBC. they're going to focus on one aspect of it, and they're going to pump that narrative. So CNN shows the peaceful aspects of the protest. They show people out there trying to make a difference. And then they'll cut to later on in the night when the agitators have come out and started throwing projectiles at police, and the police respond with tear gas. Well, all of a sudden, police are tear gassing peaceful protesters. You see, so but that's all we see. It's just this little window into the world, and that's it. And that's all they want us to see.
Of course, because it keeps the conversation where it is. It keeps that conversation there. All right, did we come up with a share screen right now?
Yeah, I got it right here.
All right, perfect. So I wanted to show this, right? Because this is the prevailing message that's coming out of this was put up on the African American History Museum webpage, had to get taken down. Mm-hmm. Aspects and assumptions of whiteness and white culture in the United States. Mm-hmm. Rugged individualism. Individual is the primary unit, self-reliance, independence, autonomy, high value, reward, all that stuff. That's whiteness. Family structure. I want everyone to listen to this. Black, white, Asian, everything. They're saying now family structure, nuclear family, father, mother, 2.3 children, idea of social unit. Husband is the breadwinner of the house, wife, homemaker, children should have their own room and be independent. That's white supremacy. Scientific method, objectivity, rational, linear thinking, cause and effect relationship, quantitative emphasis. That's white supremacy. History, based on Northern European immigrants experience in the U.S., that's part of a problem. That needs to be switched. We can switch that up. Heavy focus on the British Empire. White people live here. Like Greek and Roman. It's like silly. Oh, here's some other stuff. Work ethic. Hard work is the key to success. Work before play. If it didn't meet your goals, you didn't work hard enough, as they say, is white supremacy. Again, I want everybody to point out that you're saying hard work is white supremacy. So when all those African countries, all those kings and queens that people mention when they talk about when they're running their country and that focus, that was white supremacy. Where else now? Status. Oh, Christianity, religion. Christianity is the norm. Anything other than Judeo-Christian tradition is foreign. That's not true, because we have Satanists here who run in the government, and they call themselves Satanists. I'm not saying this to put names on anyone. This is what they call themselves. We have Jewish people, we have Satanists, we have Muslims, like
all religions.
That's just the lie. Status, power, authority, wealth, worth. Your job is who you are. That's usually not what people think. And I know a lot of people think sometimes a job is just work. And I know for us, we're going to do what we love so it doesn't feel like work. Respect authority. That's white supremacy. Heavy value on ownership of goods, space, and property. So wanting to have your own space, own your own plot of land, that 40 acres and a mule thing. Remember that was going around about 10 years ago trying to get reparations for Black folks. Yeah. All that is white supremacy. Future, plan for your future, white supremacy. Delay gratification, white supremacy. Progress is always best, white supremacy. Tomorrow will be better, white supremacy. Time, follow rigid time schedule. Time viewed as a commodity, white supremacy. Ethics based on European culture. Steak and potato, bland is the best. I don't know that, but women's beauty is based on blonde thin Barbie.
That may be a British thing. I don't know.
Or the blonde thin Barbie, is that 1970? Like Kim Kardashian was everywhere for like 10 years to have these kids thinking they want to get those fake butts. That's going crazy.
Yeah.
Men's attractiveness is based on economic status, power, intelligence. They say to believe in science, right? And don't they say women are attracted to people who have security, seem like you're going to be able to take care of? Now they're saying that's white supremacist. Holidays, Christian religion. Okay, that's white. I don't understand that one. Justice based on English common law, protect property, entitlements. Intent counts. Intent does count. I hope intent counts, because if I accidentally scuff someone's shoes, they shouldn't take that as wanting to kill me, because the intent wasn't to break them down. Competition, be number one, or for them, give everybody trophies.
Participation trophy, yeah.
Winner and loser dichotomy. Action oriented is white supremacy. I didn't read that one until right now. Holy shit. Master and control nature. Must always do something about a situation. Aggressiveness and being an extrovert is now white supremacy. Oh my God. Making decisions. decision making is white supremacy. I haven't read this part, so this is crazy to me. Majority rules have when whites have power. Okay, whatever. Communication, the King's English rules. So now they're going into now they're writing down how they're destroying language. Written tradition, avoid conflict, intimacy. Don't show emotion. I don't know what that means. Don't discuss personal life. Be polite. Like so, it's like this is the message you're telling white or black people. That's the
Right.
that's the leaders in our community and whoever's funding this shit that are telling black people all this stuff that no matter where you are, you can be in Africa today with a bunch of black folks and you do opposite of this shit, and you're gonna be just as poor as you are here. But they're telling us that here. And your life's gonna be shitty, and your kid's gonna be unruly, and you're gonna be trying to figure it out. People are gonna hate you and kick you out of situations. Follow these plans. This is from the African American Museum, funded by I don't know who at this point. Please, somebody can tell you, but all that stuff.
George Soros. Who knows? I know he's the go-to guy, but
it's like, but this is the messaging. This is something that was in there slowly, and now they just put it out there, right?
Yeah,
just put it out there because it was in there. It was in there, like like kind of like different talk. Oh, what white and black are different in this way. Stuff I grew up listening to.
Yeah,
when you're telling me conscious thought, linear thinking. By the way,
planning ahead. Like,
by the way, a lot of that is how men think. By the way, you know
what I mean? I mean, that's what has brought about the rise of Western civilization. I mean, if we didn't have any of these things in place, nothing would ever get done.
Well, they're saying, and that's not even just Western civilization, right? Because like before communist China took over, like the Chinese, it was about. I mean, they had the writing system before we did. That was structure.
True.
That's one of the most complicated, if not the most complicated language to learn. That was
human civilization.
Exactly. So it was. Were they being white supremacists when they were coming up with that? Were they being white supremacists when they came up with the Great Wall of China? I wonder were the Egyptians being white?
Well, they were being racist. Now you put up a wall at the border of your country, you're a racist.
Yeah, but the Mongols were killing everybody. Like,
well, that's true.
Did you say all Mongols are bad?
Oh, yeah.
Rapists and murderers. No, but it's like we gotta get to a point. It's like they've turned around because they've got everyone worked up. They turn around and have common sense shit now. They can start putting that on a list of what's white supremacy and like. Do you really think a young black kid that can't fucking listen, can't sit down still, that is unruly because his dad's not around? And I've sat there and talked to many of these kids in the juvenile detention center where I've gone and spoken to them multiple times so before this thing, this pandemic hit. And it's like, you're telling them the opposite of what they need to get just to slow their mind down. They need to slow their mind down. They can't be sitting there just rushing, instant gratification. That is literally what has us in the box. At one point in the 90s, our average lifespan for a young male was like 22. What are we talking about? In these black neighborhoods, what are we talking about? But you're saying structure and thinking for the future is fucking white supremacy?
No, that's just further enslavement, really. And further destruction. No, you're absolutely right. And I think the best that we can do, and a reason why I started this podcast is to try to educate people, try to inform people, try to enlighten people about these issues and about the other side of these issues that they're not hearing on mainstream news. From people such as yourself, man, who have a deeper understanding and a better grasp of exactly what's going on, man. So.
I mean, I've been trying to. It's crazy too. I tell my friends all the time, it's like my thinking shift when I started getting sober, and like in that act of just getting to a better place with my own issues, especially alcohol. One of the things that helps me is to give back, right? One of the things that helped me, like a friend of mine and I, we started like going on the Skid Row for like 6 months, and we're feeding, down there every Sunday. And like, there's something you get from there that like you can't get in a book, and you can't get in like watching. Even if I did a video on it, you couldn't get from the smell to what your eyes are seeing to how people are moving. You can't get that. It's something more than just the right or left. There's some deep rooted stuff that's going on that has been going on before Donald Trump was elected, before Barack Obama was elected. But here in California and here in LA, that has been gross and disgusting, and allowing people to live at the below the base level. Our standard has gone below that, and that doesn't have to be. It doesn't, because it wasn't that when I came out here in '04. We
No,
have these tents everywhere, like when I came out in '04.
no, I even watched it. I drove Uber and Lyft for about 4 years, and from about 2014 to 2018, I would drive all over the city, and I just over that period of 4 years, I watched it just increase massively. Whereas by the time we got to 2017, 2018, there were tents all over the place, man. Under all bridges, up into the valley, like up into the middle class parts of the valley in Granada Hills. There were tents lining the streets of Balboa Boulevard. You never see that.
No, I mean, and like, for example, and that became normalized. Everyone acts like, and then part of that was because the city councils, both here and in San Francisco, stripped away it, making it illegal to camp out on the street and sidewalks. So when you have that, and this is the thing again, I think, like I said earlier, I think Black community was the beta test for everything else. Because the Black community, they allow that shit to happen. So you have kids growing up in an area that looks like shit. So they think that nothing else exists beyond that shit. And then look how that same shit has spread everywhere else to the America. Where it's like you're downtown and these millennial kids, they're coming out of their, $2,000 a month, apartments and stepping over tents and being like, oh, that's just the way it is. No, it's not. And it shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't accept it. You shouldn't accept your other human beings here because they're doing something beyond, not giving anyone anything, but they're doing something beyond. They're stealing from us in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.
We have our veteran population, homeless population is what, like 20,000 here in California? The VA that's on Wilshire that everyone drives by, that they're actually building a train subway station for the new for the Olympics coming in a few years. That land, and I only found this out because, again, we got to do it ourselves, but don't teach us about our history in this country's history. And I went to the Flag Day event, and that's the same day also that the Army was the inception of the Army. And we went there, and there's a bunch of vets, and we're talking, and they had a placard up, and they were saying, like, apparently that land over was deeded to injured vets, has been deeded to them by the U.S. government back in 1887. Right now, there are tents on the outside of that they call Veterans Row that they don't allow vets in there. By the way, this is technically their land, but no one knows it. A couple reasons. Number one, all the mayors have been just doing these land deals. Look at Brentwood. Who lives in Brentwood?
Oh, the wealthy. Yeah.
And now it's their dog parks over there. That land was deeded to the vets. There's festivals they have and carnivals. That land was deeded to the vets. There are empty buildings over there right now. Land deeded to the vets. Subway station going in there. Land deeded to the vets. But you have vets sleeping literally on the sidewalk outside of the fence as we speak today with empty buildings in there. And then some of the vets are in there in tents inside, but not inside the rooms. Empty buildings there today as we speak. What could that do for the homeless problem if they go, let's follow the law we're supposed to?
Yeah.
Mayor Garcetti, nothing? As he gives his contractor friends more money or more deals to sit there and build on the land that in 1887, people need to think about this. This was deeded to the veterans of this country.
So essentially, they're breaking the law right now.
Right now. And since everything's about racism, then we don't get to sit there and hold these people accountable. The city council of Brentwood allowing that shit to happen. They allow the vets to be shit on. That's what they're doing. The mayors of the city for years and years and decades, they've been shitting on those veterans. That's what they've been doing because something was already there. You don't have to take it away from anyone else. It was already there. But hey, who's gonna fight for those vets, right? They don't have enough money. They don't live in Brentwood. They're not a producer of this or an actor of that or director of this. But they'll use those same people for whatever the political expediency is, right? Then they use the poor black people and the poor vet every now and again to get their power going. But they'll turn around and do another dog park over there or a subway. What do you think a subway is going to do with people with PTSD in that area?
Not good.
So again, you tell me how they care about people, because that's the question I've been asking people now. How these people in the cities that have been running these cities forever, how do they care about you? Because from everything I've been looking at, they don't. So I'll be waiting.
Yeah, they've been talking. They talk a good game, but they never follow through, and they don't. Their actions speak much louder than their hollow words.
Yep.
I mean, they're the epitome of what they're what people hate about politicians.
They're grifters.
And that's the thing. Now, I know this is a divisive issue for some people that may be watching this show, but that's the thing behind Trump that I think a lot of people got behind him, is because he's not your standard politician. He's not a career politician coming in here with empty promises, and he's going in there upsetting the norm and calling all these politicians out on both the left and the right, which is why they don't like him, why they're trying to get him out of office, why they're trying to slander him and make up all these stories, Russiagate.
And it's funny too, right? So there was a Russia thing, right? And you're saying, well, Russia, and that was wrong. That didn't happen. And you find out the dossier was actually funded. I mean, we knew this, funded by Hillary Clinton and the DNC, and then now the documents are out there like that. Then you come to find out they're like, oh, he's been doing the collusion with with the president of Ukraine. But then there's literal video of Joe Biden laughing about the deal that he told him to make with the last, like, so everything they claimed him to be a racist. But then you have people saying like, oh, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. So every little thing that they say about this guy or about the other side, that's who they are.
Well, Charlemagne the God called him out on that the other day. Yeah.
Charlemagne finally, Charlemagne's he's at a certain level and he's playing that game, and in that world, it's like when he first said it, he kind of bypassed it. He goes, "Oh, not about him, it's about you." And I'm like, and because he came out and said it was kind of like it was what he was saying in the conversation afterwards to someone else. He goes, "Oh no, it's not about that." And I tell him like, black people, we can't afford to vote for Trump right now, and it's like, you're saying that Joe Biden needs to do more. He says a racist thing by a white man, but yet you say we can't afford to even vote for the other person who is First Step Act, which deals with the prison industrial complex. I thought the left liked that. Ending wars overseas, which puts a hole in the military industrial complex. I thought the left liked that. He's giving more opportunities to black and brown people. By the way, permanently instituted $400 million annually to historical black colleges, HBCUs. That's permanent executive order. He just signed an executive order 2 days ago to cut medicine and pharmaceuticals down 50%, giving Big Pharma till the end of August to come up with a better plan, or it's keeping in. So now we can have a true free market on there. So my $300 cream now goes down to $35-$40. So like, people need to pay attention to like two things. What do you want in your life, in your pocketbook, and who's going to help you get there? Because those things will give you more freedom, will give you more time to go help that homeless person and really find out what their problem is and what's going on. Give you more time to start your own organization in your community, because you have a better idea of how it works than some person coming from anywhere else, including Trump. But if you have more power and more access in your own pocket, you don't then have to go beg for anyone else to give it to you. You don't have to compromise your goals. You don't have to compromise what you really need to put out there for your community, because you're bringing in some other people that, because they have the dollars, you got to play the game. Imagine that. Imagine the understanding of finances, so we don't have to fucking ask anyone else for help. That's what this country gives us. No one else does. That's
power right there, and that's what I think people really want. Instead of some free handout, I bet you if you asked anybody right now who is receiving any type of welfare or unemployment income or whatever you want to call it, or whatever the thing is, if they were given a choice to make their own way, to make more money and to have more control over their own life and more freedom, I think they would choose that. I think anybody would choose that.
See, but when you're mixing the conversation in there with like, well, people who want a certain amount of money, they're just evil people, and then going up to a certain, when you have been systematically demonizing achievement for the last 20 years, when it's like, I mean, I just read off stuff where it says hard work, singular focus. This is the culmination of what they've been thinking, at least in my lifetime, for the last 20 to 25 years. So like, we see where it goes. So like a lot of times, and I said this yesterday when I was speaking at this event, it was like there are good people with good reasoning, with like really wherewithal, wanting to do this stuff that just don't know because what they've been, taught their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, because I'm really afraid of like, how they're pushing everything. We're seeing what's going on in Portland and Seattle, that like again to that Civil War word that's been tossed around more recently than I've ever heard before. None of us should ever want that in this community of Americans. We shouldn't want that. And if people really stop and think, like, again, 90%, we were hugging at the end of our conversation last Saturday between me and this BLM protester. We hugged, exchanged info. Say, yo, if you need anything, let me know. Sister, I'm down to come here and stand next to you every time if you're going to talk to the city council about how they need to approach some things. I'm right next to you. I don't support the Marxist movement, and I never will, but I'm standing right next to you because they need more voices. Okay, that's what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sitting there picking your winners or losers, and you're and it's such a fucking grift game when you're saying business owners are bad, which at the end of the day you keep them closed, and then there's more poor people, and who's been making all the money? You got your Walmart, your Target, your Amazons.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think, I don't know how the left can get behind shutting down all these small businesses and mom and pop businesses.
That's how to get behind. It's not, that's the thing, Nick. It's like, you say how as in still believing their lie. Their lie is for the people. That's not what they're for.
Right.
That shit's not done.
Hopefully people are waking up to that fact.
I mean, there's a lot of Black folks who lost a lot of people right now over the last 3 weeks that I've talked to and I've heard and see online that are thinking differently. And mind you, man, it's like, we gotta, even going to this thing today with Joe Collins and talking to his campaign manager, it's like, yeah, we can get Gavin Newsom out, but we got to be ready for what else we want in there. And that's part of this thing too. We can't just be mad, like get rid of.
Yeah.
We also have to think forward and have a plan for the future, which apparently is white supremacy, according to African Americans. I just want everybody to remember, like, this is the shit that, like, it's out there that, like, you won't know about because, like, why would you ever go on that website?
Right.
Unless it's for something. You wouldn't know anything about any of this stuff, right? So if you had any of this stuff right here, you wouldn't know any of this. So unless we're having this conversation, you're like, oh, what? That's crazy. Why would you? And then if I'm like, oh, you're trying to talk to me logically. Imagine this conversation if you're like talking. And I'm like, oh, I'm using that logic. That's that white supremacy stuff. It would sound crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It does sound crazy.
And then you probably backed up, and now that's our world.
Right. Now there's no communication
at all. So again,
that's part of the breakdown.
That's part of the breakdown.
That's just Marxism 101. For sure, man.
Ancestor, the thing that breaks me up, right? My namesake alone, Siaka Massaquoi, he was the guy who united the tribes, King Siaka Massaquoi. For whatever's good or bad, he was a king. He had a family. He focused on what he wanted to do for the country, and he did it. So was that all white supremacy?
Yeah. No.
White culture, I should say. And so, like, it's like these people, like, it's about winning something. And it's about winning something that doesn't involve the average person. Because, again, I ask you, goodness should want everyone to rise, not everyone to fall into a spot.
That's beautiful. I like that, man.
So it's just like, again, I'm charged up. We got 100 days today for the election. And
now you brought up Gavin Newsom. There's a big movement out there going on. I see people standing on street corners with "Recall Gavin Newsom."
Yes, sir. Recall Gavin Newsom. I am. I've been kind of accidentally fell into a group. I went to one event 3 weeks ago, and then it just kept going. And it's like, as we break down some of the things that he's been a part of, man, and it's just like it doesn't make sense. Again, I ask people, like,
well, his deals with China. Look at this stuff. I mean,
the deal with China alone. You sit there, you deal with China. You do $1 billion deal that the citizens can't know, which by the way is taxpayer dollars. You give them $495 up front before you even get any of their shitty masks that then got reported that didn't really work well. At the same time, you're not letting the people see what the details of the deal was.
It's
You
shady.
telling business owners they can't open, but you have your winery open all the way up to the 4th of July. You're telling parents their kids shouldn't go to school and everything, and had us sitting out in March, but your kid got to finish his semester. Like, that's who we want to trust.
Mm-hmm.
You're letting out by end of August. They said it's going to be 18,000 inmates, and there's
And
only
a lot of sexual predators, rapists.
well, that's what they love, sexual predators. That's their bread and butter. But a lot of sexual predators. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, violent criminals. I mean,
but you're going to cut the budget. The police chief said the first thing that's going to go is going to be hard is response time. Who tends to call the police more? It's not not the ones that live in that gated community in Bel Air, or to live up in the hills in Hollywood Hills, or to live in Beverly Hills, or to live in Westwood. That's not the ones that call the cops consistently. We could probably guess.
Yeah.
So those people that I'm sure a lot of your people watching here, and a lot of people feel for it in their heart, and probably a lot of people think that they're actually voting for a group of people that's going to help them. Reduce 911 response times, and over 18,000 criminals going out into the population, not back into Westwood, not back into Bel Air, not back into Beverly Hills, not back into the fucking Hollywood Hills, but back in those same poor communities that actually need the help. What do you think's going to happen? You guys use science, right? Believe in science. You do the math. You do the mathematical formula. You tell people what you think. It's like, this is real shit. It's not theoretical anymore. It's like, socialism could work here because it hasn't been tried here. No. This shit doesn't work in this way. We're seeing people die. We're seeing them wanting to have warlords in different areas like they did in Chaz.
Yeah.
The shit that's going on in New York or in Chicago, I'm sorry. Open in the West Side, open drug markets where you can walk out there wide open and just be funneled down. Like, that's the city in the area that Barack Obama came from, then giving it off to his campaign manager, Rahm Emanuel. Those are the ones responsible for what we see in Chicago right now, partly. And quiet, nothing. The whole time, nothing.
It's criminal.
Get mad when Jesse Smollett does a fucking a hate crime hoax. He wants to be like, that's not Chicago. I'm like, you know what Chicago is? Black people dying in the street and you not giving a shit, dude. Because that's what's been going on since 2010 before he left. And now he put this other person in there who doesn't care either. So
very true. Very true.
Y'all got to tell me again, man. How do they care? How do they care about people?
They don't.
Nope.
They don't. I mean, it's it's a fact. I mean, Newsom is a great example of that. And I think a lot of these leaders that are Democratic or in the Democratic Party, Nancy Pelosi, look at her district. I mean, it's a hellhole. It's a shithole. I mean, there's just
who is Gavin Newsom's godmother and aunt?
Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, so we know exactly whose dad actually ran Baltimore into the ground. So if we know that too.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Oh yeah, he was a big Baltimore guy. And if you see here, I have where you can pull up. It has some of what we call Gavin Newsom's greatest hits. Not only you can see here at least the 18,000 inmates released by April, and I'll keep this with you so you can just have it posted on yours if people who are watching the show want to download this and see themselves. We also have he's being released included not limited violent sex offender. One guy who called himself Murder Rape Kill said that if you don't cut off my hands and penis, I will rape molest again. They just released into Orange County recently, or Corona, sorry. And then you got the LAPD budget reduced by 150, and like I said earlier, I said 145, but 150, and so longer response time. There you go. No police presence at the schools, and what schools again do you think will be affected? You can probably guess that one. Homelessness increased by 20% last year. 99% black.
20%. That's a huge number in 1 year. That's a huge number. I mean, 1% is a big number, but 20% that's outrageous.
And now we see, and we knew this from just kind of being here in LA, but I don't know how many people knew like third world diseases. Also, just the Black Death itself reemerged, which not even a third world, but also a certain century disease that hadn't been around for so long started to reemerge. And we talked about the Chinese mask deal, and then also he's dealing with said a BYD, which is a Chinese state-sponsored company. So we're seeing like this doesn't help. Do you think that $1 billion could have gone to maybe police presence in schools or something trying to kick in with the increased homelessness, or the inmates that are being released? Like, do you think that money could have gone there, or just safety in general? So again, I don't know, man. These people, we want to sit there and argue about what we see the news put out there, but these things right here, these things this is what really affects your day-to-day life. You moving through the world and having that safe space that everyone wants. These are the things.
I'll make this available. I believe you sent me this file, so I'm going to make this available on the Free America Facebook page.
Of course.
So people can go there. If you're listening to this right now, go to Free America on Facebook, or the Free America podcast, and you'll find this document there, and you can click the links and check it out for yourself.
Yes.
Good
By
stuff.
the way, I didn't. I see you can put your own Instagram stuff there. I got to be better at this stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's like at nick.yaya or the.nick.yaya. Like that.
Yeah, that's my Instagram handle. Trying to get a few more followers.
Right.
We also have Instagram handle for the podcast. Yeah. See what we got like here.
There you go. Everybody see that one. That's the one that should be up. That's the moneymaker right there, as they say.
So follow us at Instagram. You can follow us at Twitter.
Yeah.
And then here's the Facebook group is at Free America Podcast. So you want to follow us on Facebook, and also this is for the listeners. So let me just tell you what we're looking at here. So the Instagram is at Free America Podcast. The Twitter is at Free America, and the Facebook is at Free America Podcast. So pretty simple stuff, easy to remember. Join us there for more information. So anyway, back to the conversation.
Yes.
Good stuff. I mean, wow. We've really covered a lot today.
Man, tell me about it. In a good way, though. In a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the stuff, everything you brought to the table, in fact, has been enlightening. A lot of things, that I'm aware of, some that I wasn't, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners and viewers out there also, didn't know about a lot of these things. So thank you.
Of course.
So much. Is there anything else you want to cover? You want to talk about?
Well, I was going to say that we have a few different events that we're going to be heading down to, me and my business partner. We're called Chief and the Americano. Check us out on Twitter and Periscope, all those good places. Chief and the Americano. We're not on Facebook yet because I have a thing about Facebook, but that's just me. But we'll slowly get there. But we got tomorrow at 6:00. We are actually going to Adam Schiff's office, and we are going to just be opposition. We're supporting his the candidate running against him right now. It doesn't matter who at this point. We got to get him out of there too, because it's terrible. So we're going there tomorrow. We're going to be there tomorrow. We got more work coming up. It's in the 180th election, just going to be like putting my ear down to the ground, going out there, talking to people, trying to figure out, like, number one, just know that, trying to spread message and awareness, so we know what we're like upset about, and we know what we can change, because we do have the power. Don't let them don't let them get in your head that you don't have that. You have to wait for someone to tell you what's right and what's wrong. Go out there and find the information for yourself. Don't read what their lies, because again, they're just lies. Go out there and find for yourself. So truth is a lot more different than what they're telling you. This country has been a beautiful country for everybody, men, woman, and child, black, white, Asian, everybody. It had its bad times, but we're better now than we've ever been. The difference is they have us believing in a lie right now. And if you fall for it, we're going to be worse off moving forward than we've ever been. And we have a time when we have most access at our fingertips. Hell, this show is just an example right now of how one can take it on themselves and just have their own existence. Everyone can do that here. What they're asking to do, you can't. They're asking to consolidate the power because they see that they're losing it. And the power is ours. We, the people. Never forget that.
Well said. Well said, sir. Man, Man, I love you, brother. Man, you always such a pleasure to talk with you, man. We got to hang out more often.
And come back because there, it's 100 days, man. There's gonna be more stuff that
definitely
you and your people's over here. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely, and I want to get together with you and go down to some of these rallies and some of these things going on. So we're going to stay in touch, and we'll organize that for sure.
And the more organized we get on our end for other stuff, like it'll be like a whole thing. You'll be on our show. It's going to be fun. We're going to do it. We're going to change the world in a good way, and it's just going to be great. There's a lot of momentum going forward and a lot of positivity, and people are just getting sick and tired of being sick and tired, for real.
Agreed. Agreed. That's why we're out here doing this, man.
And we're American first, everyone. Anyone watching this, we're American first. If you don't love this country, well, I wouldn't get into the fight because you're fighting against people who love it to the death. So I'm just saying, there's a difference. Those who care and those who don't. So.
Yeah, when you're fighting with love,
it's
you can't. It's hard to fight against.
It's hard to fight against that one. I mean, there's a reason why those people in Afghanistan have beaten back the French, the Russians, and the Americans because they love their country. So, think about that, people, as we're out here. Do you love it or do you hate it?
Right.
If you hate it, stay at home for yourself.
Yeah. Hate's not going to win.
Not going to win, man. Love's the only answer. And
that's right.
For me, I have a God of my understanding, and that's me. But whatever you need for yourself, just don't make it another person because people are fallible.
That's true.
Yeah, that'll break your heart every time. Don't do that.
Every time. Good stuff, man.
Dude, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's been beautiful. I look forward to having you back very soon.
For sure, brother. And we'll talk soon, huh? Thank you guys for listening.
All right.
And all that good stuff, I guess.
Thank you. And plug once again, what is the name of your fish?
Chief and the Americano. We have graphics. We'll do that next time. But Chief and the Americano.
Okay, cool.
Twitter, on Periscope, and yeah, we're around there. We just started uploading stuff recently too from the event from yesterday. So
awesome.
You'll see me do my little speech, and I think a tear came down and everything.
Oh, wow! Look at you.
Just come check it out, guys.
Getting all emotional. All right, cool. We'll definitely check it out. Chief and the Americano.
Sir.
It's been a pleasure, Siaka.
Pleasure,
we'll see you soon.
Sounds good.
All right, man.
You.
Bye.
Ciao.
Peace. Wow, that was great. What a really cool guy, man. I love that guy. He's so much fun to talk to. Like I told you, he just knows so much stuff. He's so well informed. And he's got such a good heart. That's really the the crux of what makes him just a good person and a good person to know. So I'm blessed to know that man. So we're about to wrap things up here. I did want to share one more thing with you. I have a little special segment that I'm going to start out. I'm going to do this each week on the show, hopefully just for fun, something to make you laugh. But this little segment up here is called Triggered. And it's where we show each week, we're going to show somebody who is completely triggered by what's going on out there in the world, whether someone said something to them or someone did something that they didn't like. So here we go. I'm going to show you this tape of this lady. I'm just going to share it with you. Here we go.
Goodness sakes.
Oh, let's start over.
And wonder what is going on inside their head.
She's not social distancing here.
Goodness sakes. Venimos a tener un pacífico día y supuestamente una enfermera. Supuestamente enfermera quiere que nos movamos más lejos. Por la...
Anyway, wow, that's I stopped it short there. She says it's people like you that are ruining it for all of us. And yeah, she was a little upset that they weren't doing the 6 feet of social distancing out there at the lake. Well, all I got to say is some people just can't handle life. They get a little upset. I think we're all a little on edge these days. So be a little kinder to your neighbor. Be a little kinder to that person that you see on the street, as well as to yourself. Okay? Be easy on yourself. These are some tough times. And I can't say that we're all in this together, because some of us are worse off than others. Some are better off than others. But I can say this, is that I feel you. I'm with you. I love you. So with that being said, thank you for watching our broadcast, this inaugural edition, and look forward to seeing you all again soon. Okay, take care.